Hello. Today this PowerPoint will cover club standards, the requirements for being a 4-H club in Nebraska. As just mentioned, club standards are the expectations that 4-H clubs need to meet in order to be an official club in Nebraska. Many of these standards are also federally required by our federal partner, and as we step through them we'll talk about which ones are federal and state, or whether they're just state standards. But the expectation is that clubs will meet all of these in order to be considered an official club. All of these standards can be met by working with your local extension office. They can help you comply with many of the standards, as they have access to many of the forms that need to be completed in order to comply with these standards. And so make this a process that you do in partnership with your extension office to help you become an official club. One reason we ask you to work closely with your extension office is that extension offices are being asked to keep a record of this information for each club in their county. It's important that club files are kept and maintained in order to keep accurate records on what each club, when they were chartered or when they became official. And so the extension office will work with you and in turn keep those files, so as club leadership changes over the years or as things happen to the club, there's one place where all these records have been maintained. The first step in meeting the club standards is having an approved club name. Now, we realize many clubs have been in existence for several years, and hopefully you've gone through the process with your county office and making sure that your name is approved. The reason for that is naming 4-H clubs is important because that's the public face that showcases 4-H to the greater community. And we want to make sure that that name strives to maintain and enhance a positive public image of 4-H. And so some of the guidance that you need to follow is that names must be specific. They should not imply exclusiveness, which means they should not be gender specific or just allow for a certain group to join. They should not be religiously named, and they should not be offensive. They should foster the character building purpose of 4-H, and they should be names that should be sustained over time. So you need to think about whether that name is something that if a child was involved with it now, would a child in 20 or 30 years join if the club is named that. And they should also comply with copyright regulations, which means using popular names or TV shows is prohibited. It's important that when you choose a club name, that name not be set in stone immediately, because it does need to be approved and make sure that it meets these criteria by the state office. Once that name is chosen, your local extension office will submit paperwork to the Nebraska State 4-H office with that name in place. And then once that name is approved, you have authority then to use that name as your 4-H club. The second step to comply for club standards is the charter. And obtaining a charter is very simple. A form will be filled out at the local extension office. It actually is part of the same form that approves your club name, and that will allow the state office through our federal partner to issue you a club charter. Now, we know many clubs have been around for a long time, and many do not have access to that original charter. We have asked that clubs that cannot find their original charter, so that the office has that paperwork on hand, resubmit and become rechartered. Even though you may know you've been established in 1940, your new club charter may be issued in 2011, just so the proper paperwork is on hand at the local extension office. The charter is an agreement. It's an agreement with the club, with national headquarters, on the proper use of the name and the emblem. It's also an agreement by the club with the local land-grant university, which is the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, to follow and abide by all state and local 4-H policies, procedures, and other requirements. So this charter establishes you as a club, says that you have the right to use the 4-H club and 4-H clover and emblem, but also binds you to following policies and procedures set forth by the state office. This charter, as it looks on the screen, will recognize your club on the local, state, and federal levels, and it is truly a partnership between those three pieces that allows you to serve as a 4-H club. And this charter recognizes you by the Secretary of Agriculture to be official as a 4-H club. Over the past couple years, we have made several changes to our club standards, and once again we are making some new changes. Entities above us, including the IRS and National 4-H headquarters, have been making changes as it relates to how 4-H clubs operate. And one of the things that clubs have been asked to do in the past was obtain an EIN number. That is now becoming an optional piece for clubs to do. This may be required, though, in order to open a bank account. but we will not be asking for this information on a county or state level anymore. So EIN numbers are optional. As we talk about bank accounts in the next slide, you can learn more about why that would be important. Establishing a bank account is an important part of being a 4-H club if your club has a treasury, and especially if your club has a significant treasury. We want to make sure that we're teaching bookkeeping skills and we're teaching proper accountability of club funds to our members. And the best way to do that is to have that in a bank account. Now, there will be banks that may require you to have an EIN number to get a bank account. That would be when you would need to establish that EIN number and file the 990 form at the end of each year on how much funds your club has. Both of these are optional, but once again, in the best interest of the leaders, the risk management issues surrounding having money in the name of a 4-H club, if your club has a treasury, especially a significant one, we ask that you put that money in a bank account for proper accountability. Step 6 is filing a year-end treasurer's report. Due from each club at the end of the year will be a form that asks you to complete the income and the expenses that have come in and gone out for your 4-H club. And the reason behind this is to account for funds and how they're being used in the name of 4-H, and to make sure that they are being used properly in the name of 4-H. We would ask that even if your club has a zero balance, that you do zero, send in that no money was brought in, no money went out, just so each club has a record each year of those funds. Step 7 is the completion of the volunteer leaders being screened, and this is a form, the Youth Protection 4-H Volunteer Screening Form, and it can be obtained from the Extension Office or on the State 4-H website. And this form allows all leaders working with kids to be screened for convictions of child abuse. This is something that many youth organizations across the country are asking adults to do who work with kids, and 4-H is also complying with that. This is a very basic thing that is done, and we ask that all leaders that are working in your club take part in it. Step 8 is the Constitution and bylaws, and we ask that as a 4-H club, you are an entity and an organization, and the Constitution and bylaws are guides on how your organization should operate. And the State 4-H website, and I will give you that website at the end of the PowerPoint, has a sample Constitution and bylaws for 4-H clubs. And the Constitution really kind of establishes how you're going to operate, what your purpose is. It's going to be very straightforward and very difficult to change. It's going to be the basic structure of your club. And then the bylaws are kind of the procedures, and those can be amended and changed as you make changes in your club. But this Constitution and bylaws will establish you once again and give you some structure on how you're organized. Step 9 is somewhat of an optional step when it comes to the standards. It's a Nebraska Club of Excellence. And one way that clubs might choose to measure their success or to make sure that they're meeting the needs of the kids in their club is to gain status as a Nebraska 4-H Club of Excellence. The Club of Excellence has designed the things that make a 4-H club successful, and it asks you to follow these in your club to make your club successful. To receive designation as a Club of Excellence, you must meet the following requirements. You must have at least 5 members from at least 2 different families. You must recite the 4-H pledge at meetings, meet at least 6 times per year, choose or elect youth officers, give youth leadership roles, have 1 club project that you do together, have adult role models or parental involvement in your club, have the club facilitated by organizational and project leaders who have successfully completed that volunteer profile or screening I talked about, have members who perform a presentation or public speaking at the club level or above, complete 1 community service project as a club, have members who participate in county, district, or state events, and then celebrate the achievements and accomplishments of your club. These steps have been set forward to identify the success markers for clubs. Clubs who are most successful in Nebraska are complying and doing these things. And if you want your club to be as successful as it can be, these are the opportunities you can provide. So as we've gone through all the standards, one thing you may be saying now is help. And we want you to know that we are all here to help you. Your local extension office is aware of these steps and can find this information to help you move through these steps pretty quickly and easily. The website on your screen is the State 4-H website that has some of these forms and samples available, the sample constitution and bylaws, the volunteer screening form. Many of these things are on this club resource page in order to help you achieve these club standards. Looking one last time at the steps to be an official club in Nebraska, we ask that you stop and think about the fact that there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of clubs across our state. And in order to have everybody working toward the betterment of youth and doing what's best for the youth in our program, there are some expectations and some guidelines we need clubs to follow to try and best do that. And in order for us to be able to account for everything that's going on, we need to know who's out there. We do this by approving your club name, making sure that it's welcoming to everybody and not discriminatory against anyone. We get you a charter, which charters you as an official club and gives you the rights to the emblem and the 4-H clover, establishes you in understanding that you're following state policies and procedures. We ask that you complete that year-end treasurer's report so we have an accountability and idea of what your 4-H funds are being spent on. That all of your leaders complete screening so that we know our kids are in the safest environment possible, and that your club follow bylaws and a constitution that just establishes you with some structure to organize your club in the best way possible. The optional pieces, the bottom one, the Nebraska Club of Excellence, is a very highly promoted one, and one that we ask that by following these steps to being a club of excellence, you will be providing your youth the best possible membership in your club. They're going to be getting the most out of your club that they can. And then the last optional piece there to being an official club is that if you do have a club treasury, it is in the best interest for risk management issues and accountability to have it in a bank account. And then as a result, you may have to obtain an EIN number to do that. Thank you very much, and good luck with your 4-H club.